Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dome9 webinar on our new Azure security and compliance capabilities. My name is Thelen Blum, and I will be your host for today's webinar. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager at Dome9, and I'm here with Matt Ambrosiak, Cloud Solutions Architect for Dome9 Security. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available on our website afterwards. All attendees are in listen-only mode. We will close with Q&A at the end of the session. If you would like to ask a question, please type it in the questions window of GoToWebinar, and Matt will address as many questions as possible, time permitting. We also have uploaded 2 reference handouts, which includes our Dome9 Arc platform and Dome9 compliance and governance product briefs. Please feel free to download this content at any time during the webinar. I want to present a little background on Matt before we get started. Matt Ambrosiak is our Cloud Solutions Architect at Dome9. As a certified AWS Solutions Architect professional, Matt is dedicated to cloud technologies and a champion of cloud adoption. Matt has 15 years of hands-on experience in networking, virtualization, and DevOps. He's a former DBA, Cisco, CCNA, and Scrum Master. Matt has spent his career consulting to Fortune 500 clients and the Big Four accounting firms. Matt has a master's degree in product management from Keller University and a BS in network and communications management from DeVry University. Now we will launch into our webinar discussion today. Dome9 was the first cloud security automation solution to offer native integration with Microsoft Azure environments, allowing Azure customers to establish and maintain robust security. Driven by strong interest, we have continued to build out our Azure capabilities within the Dome9 Arc platform. In this 45-minute webinar, we will cover some of the powerful new security and compliance capabilities available for Azure customers. This webinar will include a live technical demo of the product. Without further ado, I will now pass the ball to Matt. Let's get started.
Thank you, Thelen. I just want to introduce Dome9 to everyone first and provide some insight about exactly who Dome9 is. So we are indeed a cloud security orchestration platform. I hope you gathered that much so far and why you're here. And Dome9 is 100% focused on the infrastructure layer. And in doing so, we provide deep visibility into things like network and security configurations inside your cloud account. We are a multi-cloud solution we do support AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. In the scope of the webinar today, we're going to be diving into all of the new Azure features. We are also a SaaS-based solution, so we are 100% agentless, so we don't get down to the host level at all. Keep that in mind. So we also were originally founded in 2011, and our leadership comes from companies like Checkpoint, HP, Nutanix, and IDF. Our HQ is in Mountain View, California, with RD in Tel Aviv, Israel. We are roughly 75 employees. We hold many patents, which we have also many on file for cloud security orchestration platform. We are also the only vendor in this space who have a solution that is PCI compliant, certified. So before we get started, I actually wanted to touch on the shared responsibility model in the public cloud. So in a traditional data center, an organization is responsible for building out rack servers, storage, and network hardware. You install the virtualization operating system and manage this infrastructure using a variety of tools. And as you grow, of course, towards capacity, you must order and build out more infrastructure. So all the while, you're responsible to handle physical access, identity access management of services, encryption, network access, power, connectivity, disaster recovery, and even more. And virtual machines time to availability after request is made inside an organization by a business unit is dependent on approval workflows and technical resources to get the job done end to end. So Moving to the public cloud solves some of those problems, but creates an interesting situation, which is called the shared responsibility model. In the public cloud world, this is the relationship between your organization and the cloud provider. Now, looking at the public cloud and the cloud providers and how the cloud providers handle the bottom half of this model for you. Oops, got a little head there. You are, there are reasons why we move to the cloud in general. Sorry about that. And most organizations don't truly want to be in data centers, right? They want to run their businesses and have confidence that their applications are always available to their end users. Organizations would rather focus on innovation and the business rather than constantly worrying about if they can meet the growing demand of power and infrastructure. With the public cloud, we're moving past large capital expenditures and into pay for what you use model of metered services by the hour. So in this model, the customers are responsible for securing the operating systems, platforms, and data. The cloud providers give you the services and features to enhance security, such as identity and access management, also known as IAM. With IAM, you can manage users and user permissions in a subset of cloud services, such as infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. Platform as a service being any service where you can even further be extracted away, taking you away from the infrastructure layer and operating system level access. So you're responsible for managing access to these services, the server configuration, such as hardening from a security perspective, storage configuration, such as encryption, network configuration, such as firewall access through security groups, and you're always responsible for how applications and services are configured from a general perspective, but most certainly from a security perspective. So now we understand the security responsibility is largely on those organizations which adopt the public cloud. The cloud provider does their part to protect their IaaS and PaaS services, of course, but it's up to you to ensure the proper configuration, such as user and network access and data protection for the applications and services that you deploy. And so how are you protecting your cloud environment today? So enter Dome9, and Dome9 is a comprehensive cloud security solution where we're innovative SaaS platform for security and compliance across public cloud environments, and we have three pillars. There are three pillars which are making up the Dome9 platform as a whole. Dome9, indeed, a security and compliance orchestration platform for that matter. But you can also think of Dome9 as a cloud security control plane. So with the network security module, we can centrally manage your AWS security or Azure security or Google Cloud Platform security. And you can manage security groups across accounts and regions, review inventory of protected resources, and with manage mode enabled for Azure, you can manage security groups, inbound and outbound rules right from within the platform itself. So Dome9 also has a tool to visualize your environment into security zones using the network security group and subnet metadata we regularly pull from your accounts. That's a visualization tool we call Clarity. And with the compliance and governance module, we can ensure your accounts are adhering to regulatory compliance standards such as CIS Foundations and PCI. Dome9 allows you to create custom policies to enforce your own rules as well. And we can show some of that in the demo that we're going to get into later. And with Privileged Identity Protection module, it's essentially a security hardening layer for cloud identity and access management. So Dome9 provides protection against irrevocable actions by IAM users by providing just-in-time, short-lived, out-of-band authorization using our mobile app. So where does Dome9 fit into your cloud environments? So the Dome9 Arc platform interfaces with your environment at the API level. Therefore, we can't impact the operational infrastructure. We call it the Dome9 Arc because ARC means assess, remediate, and control. And this is because Dome9 not only wants to be able to show you the issues and misconfigurations in your environment, your cloud environment, but also fix these issues right from within the platform as well. In terms of assessing your environment, Dome9 enables you to visualize your network topology with the Dome9 Clarity tool. In addition to Clarity, the Dome9 compliance engine can also provide insights into your security posture, identify misconfigurations and threats, and test against industry best practices. So we're assessing your environment from two different angles: Clarity for visualization and the compliance engine for alerting and reporting. You can remediate misconfigurations right from within the platform as well. So with read-write mode enabled, you'll be able to take advantage of manage mode for Azure, as we'll get into. Manage mode will allow you to fix firewall exposures within the Dome9 platform without having to drill into an Azure console, find the respective subscription until you finally get to the non-compliant resource. Otherwise, you may be bouncing around a lot between Dome9 and Azure, so we help you avoid that entire convoluted mess. And so once everything is looking the way you like it, we can help you control these environments going forward. There are tools available to auto-remediate to keep you within compliance without the need to open a support ticket for every little issue. I'm sure everyone is familiar that the average time to turn around a support ticket is 48 hours in most organizations, but wouldn't be easier to fix issues immediately. And I'm sure that is it goes much more beyond 48 hours in many organizations. So I think we're being very conservative saying 48. So you can see the benefit of that versus being able to fix these issues right then and there. So now let's take a look at what's actually new with Azure, with Dome9 that we recently added. So we're looking at the Dome9 dashboard here. So right after you log in, you're going to see a display just like this. You'll see lots of nice statistics surrounding all of your cloud accounts, but particularly Azure in this case. One of the new features is right here. You'll now be able to customize your compliance section of the dashboard with compliance bundles that are of interest to you. Now, before we dive into anywhere else in the platform, we can see that we are only 93% compliant in this case in our Azure account. And again, you can pick any bundle and account mapping. So you're always seeing the results of accounts that have a particular interest to you in your workday in this shared platform. And then we have the complete network and security visibility via Clarity. And so Clarity is a powerful visualization tool that constructs real-time topology of cloud assets, including network security groups, VNets, and more. So Clarity automatically categorizes cloud resources based on their public exposure. So some of the features here are automatic discovery and classification of security groups by level of exposure, intuitive visualization of topology, object-based IP management with IP lists, and we also have click-through remediation, and we'll see that in the demo as well. Some of the benefits here are that we discover security group misconfigurations and vulnerabilities through a view like this in minutes with automatic classification. We get real-time feedback on the impact of configuration changes on the security posture, rapidly and troubleshoot and remediate through a workflow. And so looking a little bit closer now, we can see that we can visualize network security groups, load balancer, and VMs in our Azure environments. In a view like this, we can easily see which VMs are sitting in the DMZ security zone. If a cloud resource is in the DMZ, then perhaps we perhaps did not expect. We could go even deeper to inspect why that might be. Once we find the issue, we can remediate right from within Dome9. And we're constantly adding for any new services that may pop up in Azure. We're always working towards supporting those. We have a very close relationship with Microsoft so that as these services are available, you'll see them added, of course. So some key features here. Clarity automatically categorizes cloud resources based on the exposure to the public. We can manage network security groups from a single pane of glass. And we'll show that. Find misconfigurations and security threats and fix them right within the Dome9 platform. And we can filter our views based on tags. So we can take what might be a sprawling view with lots of assets and filter that down to something that we can actually consume, which you'll see in maybe some larger environments. So we talked earlier about the read-write mode. Enabling manage mode on an account is easy as flipping a switch here. The only required read-write mode feature is to be enabled from a policy perspective. So however, it's not an all or nothing proposition. You can enable manage mode at the subscription level for Azure or drill down into a specific network security group and turn on this feature at the lowest level. The choice is yours. And then this is the perspective of the actual network security group. So now with the manage mode enabled, in this case, it's enabled at the security group level, but regardless, we'll see all this in the demo. You can make changes to your Azure network security group right from within Dome9. So therefore, regardless of how you discovered a misconfiguration, either through Clarity or the Dome9 compliance engine, you may arrive to a screen that looks just like this. From here, you can make your changes to the network security group, then reevaluate your visualization or refresh your compliance report, whatever you're up to at the time, and whatever was the reason you came to this screen and were performing that investigation. So once everything is looking just the way you expect it, you can move on to the next thing, right? And so right from within the platform, before we were looking at the security group, and we can actually edit the security group or a particular rule in this case. With this edit mode enabled, we can actually drill into a specific rule, and we can edit this network security group rule in the Dome9 Central Management Console. And I think at this point, it would be a good idea to flip over to the demo and we can take a look at this live. So I'm already logged into the Dome9 platform here. And just to cover what we spoke about earlier, we have filters here. We can actually build out these dashboards like we spoke about earlier. I can pick my Azure demo account and I can pick a specific bundle that that I want to have appear here. It could be a custom bundle in this case, or something that comes out of the box, like a Dome9 Azure sample. Whatever it is, you can just quickly add that here, and you'll see. I'm going to cancel this, but you can actually see all of your cloud providers' results for interesting bundles to you right from within the dashboard. So I'm going to hop over to Clarity now. And I'm going to drill into my Azure account. And we see all our different regions here. I can drill into the central region, North Central US, drill into there. And we see we have one subnet here only, but nonetheless, we can actually just take this and drill in a little further and click View Graph. And what we're doing here is we're pulling the account metadata, and we're generating these VMs and load balancers and network security groups into these swim lanes. And you can quickly see where they may align based on their exposure level. You have your outward-facing IP CIDR blocks here. We have our specific VMs on our load balancers. We have a nice little legend here, so you can see quickly, what those resources are without having to click around all day. But again, we can drill into these. And for example, I'm taking a look at this Nginx VM, and I can actually right from here expand this out and see that why is this particular VM in the DMZ? Well, we can quickly see that we have 443 exposed or 80 exposed, or in this case, actually, this is a good example actually, because we see that 22 is not publicly exposed. This is a private IP CIDR block, but regardless, because you have other exposures for this particular VM, it's going to render that into the DMZ as the result. So a single exposure is a reason to wind up in the DMZ. But to further explain all of these swim lanes, rather, the DMZ is obviously publicly exposed through the public scope in terms of inbound rules. Partially open is also exposed to the public internet, but you're locked down to specific IP CIDR block. Effectively internal is perhaps a VM or security group could accept traffic in theory from a public resource, but the fact is that there's no public IP address associated there, therefore it cannot. So, but if one were to become associated, that would become exposed. So, and of course, the internal zones are internal facing um, resources, which we probably wouldn't need to investigate because everything's looking good there. But how the workflow would be, so let's just say we do want to remediate any of these exposures here, and I don't want to bounce back and forth. Well, the workflow is going to kick off like this, and this is going to be a similar workflow that you would find from the compliance engine, which we're going to take a look at a little later. But I can take this subnet and just open this up to well, we're looking at the virtual machine right now, but actually, so we can take a look at what's going on with this virtual machine first before we actually drill into the subnet, because what we're seeing is all that metadata surrounding this virtual machine that Azure provides us, and from different data sources even, we're aggregating that together to give you a useful view like this. So I can take a quick snapshot of this, but then I decide, hey, there's some exposures here. Let me drill down a little further. So we see a link here for the actual subnet network security group. Click there, and now we're going to open into the actual security group to make our changes. So we can take a look here, see, oh, okay, I don't know, we can pick any of these, doesn't matter, but let's just say HTTP. We see that that's publicly exposed, and maybe we don't want that for some reason because it's not encrypted. We can go into edit mode. We can take a look at any of these. We can see the priority here for all of these. We can edit right from here. You can see that it's exposed to all internet. So in this case, well, we could even adjust the priority if we would like to, but we can go from all internet to limited, and now it's going to require us to provide a IP address, so we can put anything we want there, down to a 32 bits, and leave a comment if we'd like as well. And so I'm not going to save this. I'm just going to discard this, but that would be the workflow. And right from here, if for some reason these security groups were not in use, we found some security groups that were not associated with any type of resource, we can actually delete these security groups right from here. Because what we might find is we have some unused resources, which best practices says we should always be cleaning those up, but we shouldn't have empty security groups not doing anything. So I'm going to come back quickly to the presentation here. Oops, I should have gone a little further, but so we showed this, we showed editing a security group. Now we also have something called IP lists. So, and we just showed you how we can edit a network security group and modify the allowed source, such as IP address CIDR block. So that's all well and good, but if we don't want to manage a string of IP addresses individually, Dome9 allows you to build known IP lists and use them as objects in a network security group. So also these IP lists are given friendly names, which you'll also see reflected in the Clarity visualization, making that diagram we just saw earlier even more familiar than it perhaps would be normally. So IP lists do support multi-cloud providers, and we can see that in the referencing group section at the bottom here. So we can actually use this list in reference to either AWS security group or Azure security, whatever makes sense for you. And so what we're looking at here is, so we can actually take a snapshot and see that we've taken the IP list from the previous slide, and we're able to apply it to the rule in our outbound or egress firewall rule. So there are many use cases why you want to leverage IP lists, so feel free to play with this in your own Dome9 account. But we see that in the highlighted yellow here, we see that we're using IP lists as a destination source. of information for IP lists. So, but they can be applied anywhere. So moving on to the compliance engine. The compliance engine in Dome9 Platform delivers end-to-end compliance management with automated data aggregation for public cloud environments. And some of the features we have and support are automated data aggregation. We support multiple compliance standards, including best practices and just general network alerts. We provide a compliance status history. You can see the results of your compliance checks over a period of time and how that's trending over a period of time and what the deviations are. We have tests that cover all cloud entities. We have printable reports. We can export reports to CSV. Some of the benefits are that we can efficiently monitor, track, and report on compliance status. We can even push those results out of Dome9 and into your SIM tool or into a remediation tool, or open a support ticket, or whatever custom action you may have. You can quickly aggregate information required to assess compliance posture without agents, and you can remediate in place for faster time to compliance. And so in this screenshot, you're going to see, this is what the top half of the report's going to look like. In the previous slide, you can see on the bottom here some of the results of some of the failed checks, but we'll look at that in the demo. On this slide, we're seeing a closer look of our pass-fail ratio, all the good statistics surrounding a particular compliance check. On the right side, you see all the different regions that Azure supports, and we can click into those regions on the map here and see what the statistics are there in comparison to the overall average. And some key benefits of the compliance engine before we get into the demo. The dashboard summary provides a view of compliance status, including how many tests have passed or failed. Security network alerts. We have 228 rules out of the box in terms of your Azure environment. We have gap analysis on the state of your security controls. We can create custom policies with Dome9 governance specification language, or GSL, without writing, hundreds of lines of JavaScript, as you'll see in other solutions on the market. And we have documented proof of compliance with reporting, automated continuous compliance to run assessments hourly. So let's jump over here to the demo. Take a look at compliance. I want to show you what this looks like live, and I have an Azure sample here. I'm just going to run this. You can see that I can run against a single Azure account for compliance, and or I can run against all accounts. I'm just going to run this against a single account, or even drill down to a specific region. We'll do all regions. Run this report right from here. And like we saw in the slides, again, we can click on specific regions and see how we're performing here. We can expand out the results of any of these failed compliance checks. And we can see the results here. We can get the metadata surrounding these failed checks around these failed entities. We can find things like unused security groups. And also, we can take some of these bundles and we can apply them to a policy. So for example, Matt's policy for continuous compliance, I can pick, let's find an Azure one here. There we go. Dome9 network alerts for Azure. I can pick one or many accounts, and I can actually take any of these here. I can take the scheduled email report, and maybe I just want the changes sent to me every day. And you'll get that on a daily basis. But once you create this continuous compliance policy, you're going to see that these are indeed running hourly, and you'll see that in the dashboard to see the results over a period of time. We see that we can also push the results to an SNS topic. So by pushing the results out as a JSON object to an SNS topic. A serverless function can then consume that, and we can actually auto-remediate using that methodology as well. Let's see, take a look here. Let's look at the dashboard, okay? So look at the last 7 days. So we can see some of these, we can, in the dashboard here, you can see all of your different cloud providers here. You can see specific accounts in relation to the bundles and what the results are. You can click here, go to results page and see a historical check. I can click on the statistics here and I can see how I'm trending over a period of time, if there's any deviations. Right now, everything looks pretty consistent right now for this particular bundle and account. And so we can come in and come into the compliance engine. We can take any of these bundles and clone them, but if I want to make a new Azure bundle, I can do that. I can say Matt's new Azure bundle, save that. Come down here, now we have a blank bundle right here. And we can actually use, when we're creating these network checks, for example, we can just build these out. Keep clicking the wrong thing there. And click a new rule. And the GSL is a short syntax. If you're not familiar, it's as close to English as we could possibly get it. And we're using this syntax to create these rules, as opposed to, it's 50 to 100 characters maybe, as opposed to 50 to 100 lines of code. Really less than the size of a tweet in general. And you can see just how easy it is. So I have some couple examples I wanted to show everybody today. For example, in the rule builder here, if I want to make sure that we're enforcing an instance tagging convention, we can do that. You can see all of the Azure supported features here. And we're constantly adding to this. You'll see things pop up all the time, and you'll receive notifications that we added support for something recently, always adding to these supported features. So for example, I want to enforce an instance tagging convention for a VM. I say instance should have tags contain key equals, let's say we want an environment tag on every instance, and value in, so we can actually check that there's the actual values within compliance as well. So we can say it must either equal dev, or it must equal test, or it must equal QA, staging, prod, no problem. And so what we can do is now is test this right from here before we go off and save it. Forgot to close off the block there. Let me test that again. So actually, that's a good example. Like, I made a mistake. I forgot to close out the block. It let me know. Now I'm testing it. Looks good. 46 tested, 45 are non-complying. So really only one instance in this demo environment is using the environment tag. But the point is the same. We can enforce this across one account or all of your accounts. Some other examples here. Maybe I want to enforce that a resource group is within the US. So we can say resource group should have region in, let's just say central US. All this stuff comes out of the Azure API. And you can get the context of all this by using the context preview that you see at the top right. So you're not just kind of blindly doing this. I'm doing this quickly, but when you're actually doing these for the first time, you have a standard workflow that you go through to find out what the metadata actually looks like, so that you can create these without just sitting there wondering, hey, what should this value be? What should this key be? What should this key value be? East US, that's good enough. And we'll just say test again. We say 47 tested, 27 non-complying. I can expand this out and see all of the regions that are being used by my resource groups that are not US based. I don't think I captured all of them. Looks like I missed US East too, but you get it. Just build these out, whatever makes sense for you. And then we have other resources we now support. A lot of this stuff popped up not too long ago. As we, generally speaking, as we have requests from our Dome9 users, we turn around the support for those services in a very short amount of time. So if you see something here, or you don't see something here that you'd like, you can certainly make that request. And we'll turn that around pretty quickly for you. SQL DB should not have, see, encryption status equals disabled. We want to make sure that our SQL database is encrypted. Test that out. And we see that none of our databases are encrypted. Okay, well, that's probably not good, right? We can do something like SQL DB should not have, let's see, long-term backup retention, state equals disabled. We want to make sure that we have enabled our retention of our database backups. Click test. And again, we're not doing it here in our demo environment, but we're catching it, right? So if you had a mixed bag, you see some passed and some didn't pass. Let's take a look at a few more before we move on here. SQL Server should have, where are we at here? Failover groups. So are there failover groups at all? It's a Boolean result, right? So click test. Probably not. None of them are using failover groups. A lot of work to do on this account, right? But you understand what we're getting at here. We're just checking to see if there's any failover groups at all. Let's see, we can do something with load balancers. Load balancer should not have inbound NAT rules with a front end port of, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up at this point. But you can assert on certain ports. I want to make sure I'm not using 3389. We see that 10 tested and there's one non-complying in this case. So that's not too bad. Let's see. What else do we have here? Application gateway should not have. Let's see here. SSL policy, disabled SSL protocols. Is our application gateway using encrypted protocols? Click test. Zero tested, zero non-compliant. Well, this account has no application gateways, but if it did, it would let us know if those application gateways are using encrypted protocols. Let's see what else here. Now we can do something with subnets. Subnet should not have security group inbound rules contain a scope, or rather, Azure terminology now, source equals, so we want to make sure that there's no public sources allowed. We have 34 tested, 34 relevant, 12 non-complying. The 34 relevant comes in if we had a where clause that would filter out the results before we actually assert on them. So yeah, that's should give you a good idea of what we can do with Azure and how you can build out these rules yourself around your own custom use cases, whatever it might be. So coming back to the slide deck here. Sorry, the party's over in that regard, the demo. We also support the audit log, your source of network truth. So the Dome9 audit trail is your source of truth regarding network security control changes, regardless of where they originate. You can consume within Dome9 or your SIEM toolset of choice. Some of the features here are automated data aggregation, again, the multiple compliance suites, benchmarks, compliance status, history, testing coverage across all cloud entities, printable reports, efficiently monitor, track, and report on compliance, quickly aggregate information required to assess compliance posture without agents, and again, remediate in place. And again, you could, of course, any of these reports that come out of the compliance engine, you can print them out or export the failed results to a CSV file, and you're on your way. So with that, we encourage you to sign up for a 14-day trial of the Dome9 Arc platform today, and you can experience it for yourself and see what we have for you in Azure, and certainly play around with GSL and dive on deep and see how we can bring value in terms of protecting your environment from a security perspective.
Okay. Well, thank you, Matt. It looks like we have a few questions. The first one is there a way to find unused Azure network security groups?
Yeah, I think I briefly touched on that, but we can actually take a look at that again. You could build a custom rule around that. There's already one in one of the compliance bundles, but building it from scratch would look something like this. Let me cancel this out. Go to Rule Builder. We can say Network Security Group should have network asset stats, because at this point we're testing on the results, or rather the associations of that security group. Contain any count is greater than 0. And what this is going to do is it's going to say, this security group is not in use, so therefore we should clean it up. We have 80 non-compliant security groups that have nothing associated with them in this account. So that's how you would build that in GSL.
Okay, great. Next question. Can I get a report of network security group assets for Azure?
Could you repeat that?
Sure. Can I get a report of network security group assets for Azure?
Okay. So there's a couple different ways you can get to there. If we go to security groups, under the network security tab, this is a bit of the central management console. And we could actually just filter on, obviously we have all the cloud providers here. I can, in one perspective, I could just click my Azure account, and now I'm going to have a strict listing of the security groups associated with that specific account. I can go a step further and actually maybe look at the central US region. I'm seeing only that. And yeah, and then we can actually just drill down and click on any of these and take a look at what's going on.
Okay. And another question. How often does Dome9 update the metadata for Azure accounts? Also, are network security group changes immediate?
I'll answer the second question first. So when you actually make the changes in one of these security groups, we're immediately making that change. So once I click edit and I modify this particular security group, you're going to see that reflected right away in your Azure account. In terms of how often we refresh, the answer is it depends, because we're testing, or we're pulling in a lot of data from your Azure accounts at various levels, and there are limitations to how often we can pull some of those entity types. So it does vary from entity to entity. So generally speaking, on average, the metadata is refreshed every 2.5 minutes, but that does depend on the resource type, which is a limitation that's imposed from us from the actual cloud provider, such as Azure in this case.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Matt. All right, everyone. This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for attending. If you have any further questions on the information presented today, please don't hesitate to reach out to us via the email q@dome9.com. I have a few final notes. If you've enjoyed the webinar presented today and would like to experience the Dome9 Arc platform for yourself, we are offering a 14-day free trial. Please visit our website at www.dome9.com and click on the Get Started button on our homepage. Just register and a representative from Dome9 will contact you to activate your free trial. Additionally, if you liked the webinar today and would like to hear more about the multi-cloud security solutions Dome9 provides, please visit the resources page on our website and sign up for several of our upcoming webinars, or go to dome9.com/webinars. If there's a topic you would like us to discuss, please contact us through our website and let us know. With that, we thank you for your time today and hope you found the content informative. This now concludes the Dome9 webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day.